Hello and welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Matt Muratore. My guest today is the outgoing Director of Elder Affairs, otherwise known as the Council on Aging for the town of Plymouth, and one of my favorite people, Conni Dilego. Conni, welcome.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you know, we talked about, we planned these shows ahead of time. We said, okay, who are we going to have to guest? And for our next show, and immediately you came to mind. And I was quickly told, well, we never repeat guests. And she was already on back in early 2016. Mm-hmm. I said, no, I have to have Conni on. You know, you have been such an institution here in the town of Plymouth, and you've done so many wonderful things for the seniors. My first question is, why? Why are you leaving?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not old.
Yeah, no.
But I will make a comment about that. Yeah. Because actually I've been working with seniors and elderly for over 40 years. Mm-hmm. I've only been 11 years here in Plymouth. Mm-hmm. But I've watched people age. I've watched my family age and pass and stuff. And so often people retire and die 2 months later. Mm-hmm. Or work until somebody opens the door in the morning and they're on the desk, gone, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want that. And I'm extremely, and I can't say this enough, I'm extremely grateful right now for, first of all, having had this opportunity put in my hands. I loved it. And I'm also very, very grateful for being this age. I'm 72, or will be.
Okay.
All right, to get that, folks? I said it.
That's still young nowadays, though.
It is. And
my dad's 81. He still works full time.
Yeah, well, that's your dad.
Yeah, I mean, it's still doing it.
And it's all different now. But you know what? I've had a wonderful lifetime of variety and various careers and adventures, as I like to call them. And I want another adventure. I think it's time for some new blood. I hope that we've got a lot of things going there that people will just pick it up and carry with it. But pretty much it's time to move on. Yeah. And I've asked other people who've retired and everything, how do you know? How do you know when it's time?
I was going to ask you, how did you know it was the time?
Whatever ever said to me was, you'll just know. Mm-hmm. It's like when you buy a house and you're walking around, you're looking at all the places, and sometimes you just walk, this is it. Mm-hmm. Well, I was sitting at the desk one day, and maybe it was after the 35th call, I'm not sure. But I was sitting there, and I'm looking around at everybody and everything, and I'm taking stock, and I thought, you know what? It's time.
Did something trigger it?
No, not particularly.
You just kind of know, yeah.
Not particularly. I mean, it's a lot of stress, but people have a lot of stress jobs.
Sure,
I'm not the only one with that.
Sure.
But I think I also, as much as we've been able to do, I feel remiss sometimes with what we haven't been able to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't see an answer for that. And I don't want to start crying, but that upsets me. You know, we got the homelessness, we got the opiate addiction. My beloved grandparents group needs so much help, which we can talk about later.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. It's time.
Yeah.
Somebody who can come in with a little bit more energy and put it into those things and other things. There's areas we haven't even touched yet.
Yeah.
South Plymouth. Yeah. Satellite office. Right. Exercise programs, mental health. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you and I have had this conversation in the past. You say, I've gone a couple of years. And yeah. I really didn't believe it when I first heard it and when we talked to them. When we talked, I said, okay, you knew it was time. Yeah. For the few people that don't know you out there, tell them a little bit about you, a little bit about your background. Not about what you do as a director, but a little bit about you. Where you came from. Yeah, where you came from. Right.
Well, I'm born in Western Mass, and I moved to Plymouth in '76. After I got a divorce, and I moved down here and I went to Cape Cod Community College and I got involved in theater. Day 2, I got involved in theater, and that was that aspect of the next 22 years. Because I did theater on the Cape, and we had the old, do you remember the old Colony Theater?
Oh yeah, sure.
The one downtown? Sure. God, I love that old vaudeville house. Yeah. Did a lot of theater in there, and then went back to the Berkshires and was company manager and an actress at the Berkshire Public Theater for a few years, and just kind of wandering back and forth. I also went back to college. I came back to Plymouth, and I went to college, UMass, got my bachelor's in human services and gerontology. Love that. And then a friend of mine was living on the reservation, the Navajo reservation, and she was a nurse, and she said, they were opening a new detox center in Tuba City. and it was the first one on the whole reservation out
What
there.
state is this?
Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
And she said, we need somebody to do a fundraiser for us. Would you come out and direct Godspell as a fundraiser? And I was, at that point, I am still a recovering alcoholic, so this was dear to me. This was for an alcoholic rehab. So I thought, how am I going to do that? I got 3 kids. This isn't the easiest thing in the world. So my ex-husband agreed, and we worked it out where he had the kids and stuff, and I went out. And I went out there, and it was a life-changing experience. First of all, Miss Naivety here, Miss Naive doing Godspell with a Native American tribe back in 1980. They weren't all born-again Christians then, right? So I learned a lot with that. For one thing, patience and timing. When you call a rehearsal at 5 o'clock and they're not there till 6:30 or 7, because they've got sheep to bring in and cows to milk and chores to do. Well, we don't necessarily have that here. Anyway, that was just one of the things, learning timing and patience and so on and so forth, and dealing with another culture was a rude awakening. And I'm so grateful for that. Well, anyway, at the time, I met the mother of one of the people that was in the detox, Shema. Her name was Shema. Her given name was Juliet Help. And she was a shaman. And she lived way out on the desert. And, wow, did I mean to get into this whole story?
Yeah,
is it okay?
Keep going,
All
yeah.
right. So she lived 8 miles out on the desert. And I went out to meet her. The first time I met her, Matt, it was like, I was standing in the front of her hogan, which is the Navajo, the round home. I'm standing in front of the hogan, and I look up over the sand dunes, and this vision appears walking over, with the long velvet skirt and the velvet top and the turquoise and the hair and the chier and the whole thing. And it's like, I was just transported into another time. It was amazing. And she came down off the hill, not knowing me, of course. And I saw her, and I just went up and I grabbed her and I hugged her and I burst into tears. And I had been practicing how to say hello, Shema, hello in Navajo, and it was Yat Shema. And I kept saying it wrong, whatever. But and she was like this. Of course, I learned later on they don't hug.
They don't hug.
She did. She does afterwards. She told me I was her only daughter that ever hugged her. But that was the beginning of a great change in mine. And I came back. I directed the play, and it was very successful. We received a lot of acknowledgement from the tribe. And I came back home, and I was working for the AIDS Society AIDS Association that started here. And went back to school again. Now I got my bachelor's when I was like 60. No, I got my master's when I was 60.
Wow.
So I went back to school and the kids back and forth. And ultimately, I decided that when my youngest one got out of high school that I was going back out there. And I had corresponded with Shema over the 10 years, and it was a good correspondence. And she wrote, not very legibly because she thinks she went to 4th grade, but she did write. And I went back out there. I had planned on doing a documentary on her because it's a dying culture, and I had all the equipment and everything. And 2 nights before I left, my house was broken into, and everything was stolen. My camera, my car was stolen and totaled. Any money I had, it was all gone. So I'm like, oh, I don't understand this. I thought I was on the right path. Well, this story gets more involved. George Davis, I don't know if you ever met George Davis.
No.
He used to be the CEO up at the power plant
Okay.
a long time ago. Well, this is 1990.
Okay.
And he and I were on the Red Cross board. They had a board here then, and we were both on that board. And he'd heard the story. So he called me one day and asked me to come up to the plant. Knowing full well that I've been in jail, I can say that now.
Sure.
I was in jail twice over that power plant. So he called me up there and he told me that he had a car that was his favorite. He had this 1979 Pontiac Grand Prix, bigger than this room, that he had in his garage, and he was going to give it to me. Give it to me. I said, you will go to any length to get me out of this town. But anyway, I went out in the car, and it was love. And then I stayed with Shema for over a year, and best year of my life.
Yeah.
Best year of my life.
Yeah.
And since then, I went out to do the story on her. Long story short is I did accumulate cameras and things again after that. But I went out to stay for a few months, and I stayed for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got into Northern Arizona University teaching and doing elder hostel programs on the reservation. on the Hopi and Navajo reservations, which brought a lot of Biliganas, the white people, out to the reservation, which was a good learning experience for many, many people. So I did that until 2004 and came back, now looking for a job. And I applied at the town for the social worker. And I wasn't sure. There were other... Anyway, I got it. And that was in 2004, and here I am.
Yeah, that's why I met you in 2005. I was on the board. Yeah, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what, Matt? You were a big help to me those years, too, because I was a social worker, and I had worked in geriatrics and gerontology for a long time, but not locally, not in Plymouth. I mean, I lived in Plymouth for many years, but I'm not a native.
Right, right.
And I'd been away for 12 years, so I knew of elder issues, but not the resources that they had. I don't know how many times I'd call you, and I still call Brenda. You know, what do I do with this, and how do I handle that, and oh my God, where can I find this, and where, you know, you developed my resource list with me, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Okay, yeah, my pleasure. What are some of your fondest memories?
At the council?
Yeah. Either on Court Street or maybe Court Street you have some?
Court
maybe
Street.
Current location you do?
Funny memories like Court Street. You know, I was writing trying to write some of this down, and it's hard because I write about a sentence and I start crying. And I'm such a wimp. But Court Street was funny because I had that little room in the corner with the bathroom in it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And there was other bathrooms, one downstairs and one up on the third floor, where poor people had to go 3 flights of stairs to do an exercise program. But people would come into my room and it would just be, is that the bathroom? You know?
Yeah, right.
Gussie, do you remember Gussie?
Oh, yeah,
Who used to make all the arrangements for the transportation.
yeah,
Gussie was, what a trip she was.
Yeah.
You know, and that was when Kim was the manager.
Yeah, right.
And Beth Rollins, loved her. She was also a big help, and Mary Lou.
Yeah.
Then we had we had the time when the tree out front got infested with bees, and we had to close it off. And we had a couple of quirks. We're a couple of people that have that seem to think everything is done to prevent them from enjoying. Like the tree, we had to block it off because the tree, until we could get somebody in there to help take care of it. But then there's this one particular gentleman who writes letters to the editor saying that, you know, we're just trying to keep them out. And but I learned to handle that because I wasn't used to a lot of people being, or anybody really being mean. Just not in my. I'm lucky.
Yeah,
but
right.
I haven't been. So that kind of stuff really hit me for a while. But,
Sure.
So I think that was one of the biggest learning lessons over there. And then the whole move into Cottage Park.
Is that one of the biggest accomplishments you've had as director? The moving?
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, that was the most physical.
Yeah.
And that was the most strenuous.
Yeah.
And actually, well, I should say, coming into the new building was hard. It was hard.
Why was it hard? You're talking about the
Nook. I'm leaving.
You're talking about the Nook now, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Nook. It's like, my ideas and others weren't always the same.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure, yeah.
I had a vision, kind of a different vision for the place. I mean, it's gorgeous. Please don't anybody think I'm ever saying anything about it. But I really kind of knew we needed more space and that we would need more space. And then I know the town we have to have a supportive daycare somewhere.
Yeah.
And I did think we were going to have that. And then as it turns out, there's not enough space for it legally. And even if there were enough space, we use that space.
Yeah.
We have already outgrown that building. You know, we did the numbers the other day for the board meeting, and we had over 60,000 people pass over those doors since we've been there. 60,000.
5 years now?
No, 4.
4 years.
This month, 4.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah, we were up 84% in participation. Well, that's since 2010. And that's only going to grow.
Is it one of those things you build it, they'll come?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Yeah.
You build it, they come, plus I have the best staff. Of anywhere.
No doubt, yeah.
You know.
Well, that's not so much the bricks and the mortars. I mean, it's great to have that,
staff.
but it's what you do inside of that makes the difference.
Because it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
Now, I also remember with you, one time we were doing Meals on Wheels. And this was right after we opened. It was the winter we opened. And you and I were over at one of the senior housing. and talking about, you said to them sitting in there, why are you sitting here? You should be over at the new Council on Aging. And they responded, and it was like a knife in my heart. They responded, oh, we don't want to go over there. They're mean. Oh my God. How, what, you know? So I think part of our mission is to never, ever let anybody think that or say that, you know? And I think my staff goes overboard. I know they go overboard with services and with helping. And you can ask anybody, anywhere in there, whatever you're doing. I don't care if it's Terry down that end or Beth or Ginny or whoever else. If you need something, they'll stop what they're doing and help you. You know, so it's service. And it's kindness, it's compassion, it's friendliness. We're genuine. They're really genuine, and they like working together, which is even the best part.
I know some of the highlights for me is obviously the opening of the new senior center. That was well done. But also that winter, that we had a tough winter. And you actually opened up the Council on Aging. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that too.
But that's okay, but talk about it though.
No, well, actually, it was Chief called me. He said, we got a lot of problems, people are calling. Would you be willing to go up to the center and open it up as a warming center? And I said, absolutely. But I was snowed in, so he sent a cruiser down to get me. And I went up, and I had to shovel my way in because there's nobody around. So I went in and put the lights on, put the heat on, and we fortunately have a generator, so if we lost power, we'd be all right. And within minutes, people were coming, you know, police cars were bringing, ambulances were bringing people were driving
because there was
up.
a ban, because people couldn't drive on the roads because the storm was so bad,
And I don't remember, I want to say we had about 62 people before it was over, but that was on a Saturday morning, and we were there till Wednesday morning. And we had people from the hospital. You provided meals again. He's always there. You provided meals for us, which I was grateful for. And at one point, you thought your generator was going to go. And so we were going to bring up as many people as we could from your place. That would have been a trip. But we did have people from the hospital. We had people on oxygen. We had some people with babies. We had a couple of homeless people. We just had a motley crew of people. People with dementia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, that would wonder.
Because then you needed supplies and
We had nothing. Nothing.
Yeah,
We had no beds. We had nothing. And I guess the problem is the Red Cross, who supply everything, designate one place.
Right.
And they had already designated it, so it wasn't us. And poor Aaron, God bless Aaron. That kid has wings. You know. I hope you hear me because he's a police officer now.
Yes,
So, but he was running around like crazy trying to get things from us. The hospital provided us with sheets and pillows. We got food from other places as well, other facilities that would send us up if they were there, you know, and they could do it. My staff came in, whoever could. Rick Cohn was there. He stayed with me the whole entire time. God bless Rick.
God bless him,
And that's another fond memory. But yeah, that was, Senator Murray came up a couple of times too, because she couldn't, and Melissa came over.
But that just goes to show you, again, it's not just about the bricks and mortar. It's about your leadership and what you did, and it's about the people. And that's all. Did you get in trouble? It was minor, not a big deal.
Right.
But it was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do.
The Red Cross looks at a town like Plymouth and says, okay, only one. Don't realize we're 103 square miles. It's difficult to get from one part to the other. And when the majority of your people are in the center of town, and then more of the older people are probably up in the northern part, you've got to have something more than that. So
but you know
it was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
But I think that it affected change.
Yes, right, it did. It
now,
did, yep.
Now Hank, the new EO man, is working on a town-wide plan, and we're on it.
Yeah, perfect.
I made him know we have to have the council. We are the only social services here.
Right, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
And seniors are different than.
You've been a great advocate for funding too. How'd you like doing that part of the job?
I don't mind. I can.
You're very good at it, I tell you. You're very persuasive to us.
You know what? If you believe in something enough, and you know you have to have it, you have to do whatever you can.
And you were always respectful about asking for it, whether it was Senator Murray or Di Macedo or myself or Tom Calta. I mean, always very respectful, always made your case, and you weren't the type that would cry wolf. If you needed it, you needed it.
I wouldn't ask unless I needed it.
Exactly right,
And I always had your ear. And I would say that with Senator Murray, she was with us so much too, and Vinnie and Tom, always.
Talk about for a couple of minutes the grandparents program you started.
Grandparents group. Yeah, when I was back at Court Street and my first beginnings as a social worker, people were coming in, and I'd noticed they were saying that they were grandparents and they were taking care of their grandkids, and they didn't have this, and they didn't have any funding, and they couldn't get a lawyer, and they didn't know what to do, and where do I go, and how do I get custody, and the questions, and I'd not heard of this. So when I got to like the third or fourth person coming in, I'm saying, this has got to be an epidemic of some kind. So I have a very close partner over at the South Shore Women's Resource Center. And I had called over there a couple times with issues of safety that I was concerned about. So she and I got together and we started talking about this and said, we need to start a support group. So we did. We started it over 10 years ago at Court Street. And over the years, we've had hundreds go through, but I mean, you know, maybe five at a time, 10 at a time, 2 at a time. It doesn't matter. We hold the meetings every single week because the need is so great. And it's just grown exponentially. But because of that, when we were still on Court Street, you talk about advocacy, I had a couple of people that were dire straits. This is ridiculous. You can't do this and expect them to be able to carry on with no money and whatever. So I went to Senator Murray, and I had talked to her about this and what could I do and what could I do. So she told me about Representative John Lepper. He's a former state rep, and that he had also raised grandchildren, was raising grandchildren. She said he might be somebody you might want to talk to. So as it happened, he was the chair of oh gosh, I can't remember what committee he was on, but I did go, and I addressed the committee. And I had spoken to him before that to see if this was appropriate. Could I do this? And he said, absolutely, we need to have voices. So I went in and I spoke to the committee and raised their awareness of what was going on, at least in Plymouth. And they asked me to come back, and I brought back two grandparents with me. One from the Cape. It was a 80-something-year-old African-American woman raising 3 kids. All right? So we went down and we spoke to them, and jaws dropped because it's just not it wasn't talked about. It's quiet. You know, people aren't, the grandparents themselves aren't going out there telling everybody. Part of that is their shame. They feel it's their fault, they're in this position, or their guilt. Their child has either been murdered, is a murderer, is in jail, is on opiates, is something, right, or addicted. And 98% of the people we have now, 98% of them, it's the opioids. It's because of that. They've lost their kids, their own children, and now they're taking on more than one. Sometimes they have 2 and 3 kids, you know. But it's a tight group, and we meet every single solitary week on Thursdays from 10 to 11:30. And then we meet once a week on the first Tuesday of every month. We meet, and we have them bring the kids in, and we have supper. And then the kids go off and do some arts and crafts, and we'll have a support group with maybe some friends for the seniors. Time up.
That's right. No, that's great. You know, and that's the importance of the voice that he talked about. And this program is now throughout the whole state.
And it's affected legislature.
Because you came, you talked to your senator, who referred you to somebody else, and this is how it got started. And who would have known, you know, 10, 11, 12 years ago when you started that, how much it would have grown to, and the need.
I know.
The need that's there now because, as you said, the opiate.
Through Representative Lepper, I was asking for money. I was plainly just asking for money to help them out, but we didn't get the money, but we got a commission. And Senator Murray put me on that commission, which I was very grateful for, and I served on that for 4 years, but it's like a lot
of
commissions.
They have money now.
Yeah,
they have money for an executive director now, so we're getting there.
I know.
It takes time,
great,
but that's the importance of, you know, towns and states
everybody.
working together and advocating.
You know, people think you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it does. It just takes one. You just gotta.
How many seniors in the town of Plymouth?
Right now, there's a little over 60,000.
Seniors?
Oh, seniors.
Seniors.
Okay, no, population is about 60,000, 62.
Yeah.
Over seniors, there's 20,000.
20,000. In the next 10 years,
that's
what do you
even
think?
rough, Matt, because that's just our figuring, because we added exponentially to 2010 stats.
Yeah,
but,
right. What do you think by 2030 what it's going to be?
By 2030, we'll be 50% of the population. 50%.
So what do you see, if you had a vision for the next 10 or 15 years, what do you see Plymouth looking like for seniors? You mentioned earlier, it's satellite.
Oh, yeah.
What else do you think?
Here's my hope. My hope is that through us, through the Center for Active Living, AKA the Council on Aging, we will be able to get out there and beat the bushes enough so that people really start coming in and realizing this is more of a community center, actually, than it is a senior center. I really, we try to get rid of the senior and the aging words because that's
And what do you call it now?
The Center for Active Living.
Love it.
All right? And that's helped. That has changed.
Sure,
It's made a difference. I would like to see more people involved on a very good, not just for the exercises, but for the programs we have. Like right now, even our board is looking for members to be on committees. We're going to start the next accreditation. And that takes people. There's so much to do up there. And there's so many activities. Now, once that happens and we get people involved, I would like to see more seniors, people of my age, anybody over 50, start going to the selectmen's meetings, start going to the town meetings, show up, speak up, say something.
Get involved.
Okay?
Yeah.
We've got huge issues in housing, in transportation, and
Homelessness, as you talked about.
yeah, and they need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And there's a great bunch of wonderful people talking about it, but there's still a lot of homeless out there with no place to sleep, you know, and I don't believe that can't be done. I don't believe there's nothing can be done.
Of course not.
I don't believe that. If nothing else, rehab the old houses we have. You know, look at, I'm not trying to put anybody down either, but look at the budget a little wisely, both state and local. Where's it all going? I looked this morning, I was just trying to look at the 9C cuts, and because we were lucky we didn't get cut, or we didn't get cut enough.
No.
So we'll
did,
get our
yeah.
budget. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I know you guys were on that. But there's $568 million spent every year on jails.
Yep, that's right.
And I'm listening to something on NPR this morning regarding that, and they're talking about $30-something thousand per inmate per year. But that doesn't count all the arrests from the homelessness people. This one guy they were talking about 50 times he was arrested.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so the money that they spend on all of that,
Yep.
if you got them an apartment and a job
Yeah. Well, Connie, time has flown.
already,
Yeah. You know, thank you for what you've done on behalf of the town, on behalf of the seniors. You will always be a treasure here in this town. You will be missed, but never forgotten.
Thank you, Matt.
And you will always be, you know, a friend of the town of Plymouth. So thank you again, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, folks, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time on State Matters. Have a good day.
Bye, Janet. It's nice seeing you again.
you soon.
You look good, girl. Just let me know what I can do to help.
Well, to help me, she'd have to help every day. Every hour, every ouch, every time my wife calls for help. I mean, maybe she could help me make her lunch. But the crust, all the crust has to be cut off the corners. She could help me run to the doctor for the 5th time this week. Help me with the specialist and the second opinions and the painful paperwork about paperwork. Help me deal with how hard it is seeing my wife's name on so much paperwork. But this is on me. I'm the only one who can do this, like this, for her. Besides,
Take care.
we will. Janet doesn't like her cooking anyway.
Find support for your strength. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community.